Welcome to the Awaken to Wholeness Summit. I'm Val Solidker. Today, we are going to be diving into a very intimate conversation with one of my dearest friends in the world, who just happens to be an amazing spiritual guide and soul potential activator, Shirly Joy Weiss. Shirly is an incredible coach and coach trainer for over 15 years. Her mission is to help the lightworkers and trailblazers of our earth end the self-help rat race, to finally know the innate peace, confidence, and creative potential of their soul, and be the constant source of innovation, empowerment, and love that they are here to be. Shirly, honey, it's really so beautiful to have you here and to engage in one of the many conversations that we always have together that are so rich and so soulful and heartfelt and just wide opening. I love you. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Such a delight and such an important topic during these times. So I'm excited to see what comes through.
It definitely is. And, I know that we've already been talking so much about it and we're like, we should be recording this. We should be recording this. Well, now we have our opportunity to record all of this and to share the conversation that changes the world, on every level that we can. So I want to just dive in. And first I want people to really get a sense of you, because you have done so many things in this world and really, I think, cultivated a profound sense of self and presence and recognition of who you are on really deep levels. Something I love so much about you and the way that you show up so authentically from that place. So I want you to share a little bit about your journey into your own recognition of wholeness, how that has shown up for you, so we can know who you are and be inspired by you endlessly.
Great question. Actually, perfect question. I've been in this field for a really long time, and I've studied many different branches of psychology, and a lot of it was really to help myself, traditional, very, very typical in that sense. So many people go into the healing arts to figure themselves out. It was definitely not exempt from that. And I was guided to extraordinary teachers and extraordinary schools of psychology and got to study under amazing minds, really multiple degrees, and it was just wonderful and essential for me, because while I had, I was born feeling really lit and curious and excited and alive, as so many of us can relate to that story of just being really lit as children. Life took me to close up, contract, and develop a lot of habits of thinking more than anything, of insecurity, of self-questioning, of doubt, of worry. And what I noticed through my journey of studying so many different psychological theories, if you're this number in the lineage of your brothers and sisters, and, the position, and pre- and perinatal psychology, what happened in the moment of birth and when you're in the womb, and developmental psychology and subpersonalities. So many things. First of all, a lot of the theories conflicted, and it felt there was a lot of work. And I was constantly processing myself. And I felt that just staying together and keeping myself together and finding confidence took a lot of work and a lot of buildup. And I fundamentally found myself, even after all these programs and healings and teachings, and still never truly trusting myself, because I didn't know if a mood was going to come up and insecurity was going to come up. And if I suddenly feel insecure, I'm going to have to go do some deep process or something and let it all out. It felt like a lot of work. And it felt that even though I had improved, I was only inching along. And I remember it was like back in 2009, a couple years before, I had completed a master's in spiritual psychology, and I was living in California at the time in what felt like a hub of the spiritual and self-development community. And I was noticing that there were so many of us that even though we were meditating and doing all these practicings and processes and healings, we would still get really triggered really easily if we were in traffic or back in relationship. And it just felt like we were inching along. And certainly that was just a mirror of me. Mm. I felt like I was inching along. I was feeling some relief, some greater sense of self, but still almost at the mercy of my moods and the mercy of my circumstances. And if life threw me financial insecurity as a circumstance, I would tailspin. Or if a relationship ended, I would very easily tailspin. You know, when my mom got sick, that would really throw me off center. So I still just, even with a lot of these psychology theories that I had learned, I was still very much at the mercy of the ebb and flow, the ups and downs. And so around 2009, I kind of reached like enough, like a point of just like, I'm done. And I had a deep, dark night of the soul that really got me on my knees. Like, come on already. How is it that I get so easily gripped by insecurity, doubt, fear? What's next? What's going to happen with my finances, my work? Come on. The world and I'm very empathic, so I feel the world. So anything that would happen on a worldly level, I would feel so immensely. So I could only take so many clients at a time. Had to be really introverted, to shake off the debris of everyone. I mean, so it's just like enough. And I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. And it was really a powerful moment having that dark night and just really facing all that, because I started to see myself more clearly from within and what I was doing to create all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I started to get glimpses of it. I'm like, how it wasn't the circumstance,
Yeah. Your thoughts.
My thoughts, my focus, my attention. And, I call this, I want to say something here because I had known this before. I had read this in the spiritual texts before, and in so many spiritual teachings, your thoughts create your reality. And by reality, I mean your moment-to-moment experience. I'm not talking about dream up your Ferrari, right? I'm not talking about that.
Yes.
But your thoughts literally create your moment-to-moment experience. And I had heard it before, and that really peace is only within, just as love is only within. But it's one thing to know it at a cognitive level and finally just see it. Once you see something, have you ever had that, like an aha where you finally something really gets something?
Oh, absolutely. Many times.
Right. And so that's what started to happen to me. You get that. And I started to really see my inner mechanisms. And
it's a point of no return. When you have an aha moment like that, nothing is ever the same. You can't pretend you don't know. Right? Everything. It's like stepping out of the cave of shadows, the allegory of a cave, and coming into this bright, brilliant, vibrant, colorful world. And you're like, wow, this was here?
This was here? What?
What else is here? Right? It evokes a new curiosity for life, a deeper line of questioning into who we are and what else am I creating with my thoughts. I love that you're sharing this because this is so relatable for me, for all of us.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened, because I saw, oh my God, every given moment, how I'm thinking about it is literally creating my experience of it. And then, then you have psychology saying that, proving that all the time. And that's why you have a brother and sister experiencing the same mother, but both of them have completely different experiences of the mother. To one, the mother is an angel. To the other, the mother is the devil, right? Or you go to a party and suddenly you tell your friend, oh my God, wasn't that girl really cool? And the other one's like, no, I kind of found her annoying, right? And so I really started to see how I was creating my moment-to-moment experience via my thought. And then I started to get curious. I love that you brought that. Well, what does that mean? What is really happening inside of us to create experience? So I started to get, rather than curious about my psychology, which is looking at myself through more of a personal lens. What's wrong with me? What bad things did I learn? What false ideas did I pick up along the way? What limiting patterns? That's looking at my psychology, personal. I started to look at myself more from like a biology, neurology, impersonal, and even spiritual way. Like, who are we really? What is creating this human experience? And I started to kind of back off and see, rather than what I had unique that was wrong with me or better than the others, also, what do we all have in common? What are like the basic fundamental aspects to our being that create our experience?
Something you just said, it's like I want to jump in right there, because when I look around our world right now, the level of suffering on personal and collective levels, I think we are so focused on our differences. We are so focused on how we're different, even from, women, from one woman to the next, for people, from one person to the next, like religions, on every level, and I've brought Joseph Campbell up a couple times because he's such a huge inspiration for me. But as a comparative mythologist, he didn't look at all the differences. He looked at what was that story, the thing that connects us. And so when you're saying this, what's triggering, what's, coming alive for me in this moment is this idea of focusing more, as we're talking about our thoughts, right? Creating our relationships on what it is that we have within us that's the same.
Exactly.
And what a different approach to life and acceptance and compassion and coming together and synergizing and possibility. I mean, everything is in that.
Everything.
And then what's different becomes complementary. Because now we look at, well, what are the same goals? What are the same visions? So we can actually expand that sameness. It doesn't have to be like the exact same hair color, but we can look at ways that where do we find our common point? Where can we come together? And right now, like, our world needs that more than anything, for us to ask those questions in our personal, like, how do I come together? How do I bring all these parts of myself together? How do I relate to another person in that way? And how do we, on a more collective level, to the earth community, to the cosmos? I mean, this can go small and large.
Absolutely, because when you find that common point, not only does it allow you to experience compassion for the other, what it allows you to actually do and experience and feel is compassion for yourself, finally.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, oh, it's not what's wrong with me. And I would love to outline exactly what I feel we do have in common. But so you discover not what's wrong with you as you experience life, but what I discovered is how perfectly functioning I am. Like, I'm just a perfectly functioning human. All my experiences, all my ups and downs are thought created, and they're the perfect human function. It's actually how perfect I function, not what's wrong with me. And sometimes I have a negative thought, and that, as neuroscience has proven, elicits a negative neurochemical, a matching neurochemical that is a feeling. And so if I have a negative thought, my perfect function elicits a negative feeling. And sometimes I'm not in control of that initial negative thought, but I do have the capacity to awaken to the fact that, oh, I'm just having a thought. And I'm only one new, fresh, different thought away from a totally different experience. Because if I may have not controlled that initial negative thought, maybe I picked it up from the collective, maybe I saw the news, maybe it just came up from my habitual mind, but it's not real. It's literally not real. It's just a thought that feels really real because of that matching chemicals being released in our body. But I'm always one fresh new thought away. So first of all, I can feel just deep compassion for me. You're totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. You're a perfectly functioning human having this perfectly human moment. So I have deep compassion for myself. But then when my boyfriend is in a funk, I don't take it personal now, right? I know he's having a perfect human moment that's going to change because tomorrow he's going to have a different thought. And that's going to create his feeling, which informs his behavior and so forth, right?
I'm thinking even my son, you know, a 2-year-old, when he's having a bad moment, believe me, in that first year or so when I was trying to get into this new rhythm, I would take it personally sometimes, like, what, you know, and I would feel myself reacting. I totally come from this other place now of just seeing him and smiling and like loving him in this moment of him exploring what does that feel like and what does this feel like, and I'm upset because I can't have another cookie moment, you know, and like really being able to hold a space of openness and love and acceptance and non-judgment and not taking it personally. It's not something I did or didn't do. It's just an experience that he's having in this moment. So how can I be with him? I keep asking that question. It's the same thing with your partner or in relationship to anything. You know, how can we just be present in the most full and compassionate way that honors us and honors them, and recognizing the fullness of that, you know?
You know where I find the answer to that awesome question is? I feel you actually gave the answer because it's the perfect question, right? So the answer to that is in your son. Because your son is, and the sun's shining on me right now, so I'm trying to back up. But your son has that negative moment experience of, I want my cookie, and it feels so real to him in that moment, and life is unfair because you're saying no to the cookie, and, right? But here's the trick, right? He doesn't make a story up about it. He just allows himself to fully feel that feeling of, he doesn't make a story about life is unfair, my mom is mean, I'm unlucky. He just feels his anger.
Yes.
And because he doesn't make a story about it, it doesn't build up and becomes something it isn't.
And I'm so happy that you're saying that, Shirley, because it's exactly what it is. And we can learn so much from these little ones, can't we? You know, and for instance, he will actually say, I need some space. He'll go into another room and I'll say, I love you, I'm here when you're ready. And he'll take his space and he will process, release, feel whatever he'll cry, whatever. Calmly come out with a big smile and be like, Mommy, look, Legos. Bam. Next moment.
Exactly. Exactly. And please tell the audience the age of your son. Kids, you know, exactly.
Still 2. He's 2 years old.
That's so perfect. And to me, that's exactly what I learned. I allow myself to feel the feeling. I don't make a story about it. I don't make it mean something about me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't make it mean something about life. It's just a thought-created reality, a temporary thought. So right now I'm having the thought that says, I want the cookie and I can't have it, right? Or I feel lonely. I'm having the thought, I feel lonely right now. But it's just a thought. If we can awaken to the fact that it's just a thought, we can let it flow. You know, so much in old mysticism, in old meditation teachings, they tell us, let the thought flow. But I don't feel, at least for me, they didn't tell me why. Because it's literally just a thought. And if I hang on to it thinking it's real, even if it's a positive thought, I keep it here. And I block a flow of new thought. And so he went into his room, he just let it go. And then suddenly his attention grabbed something else, a Lego. And then suddenly that became his reality because that's where he's focused. You know, and so we have that exact capacity. And I started to wake up to that capacity in me. So when I was in a funk, I was deeply more compassionate and careful with myself. To not think something's wrong with me or that something bad is about to happen. I'm just having a thought. And it's going to pass, especially if I don't rev it up with attention, focus, and thinking it's real. And then it passes. You know, and that's really powerful too, because what that is reminding me now too is, you know, I know so much of the conversation that you're holding is not just about personal wholeness and what we can do to feel more in ourselves, but how we can assist the collective right now in these
Absolutely.
intense times. And what I discovered when I started to not cling to all those really familiar thoughts that used to arise up in me, thoughts of insecurity, fear, worry, doubt, when I stopped clinging on to them and letting them go, kind of like your son does, I discovered two amazing things. First of all, I discovered relief. Instant relief, because I was able to fall back in the present moment. I wasn't all caught up in my thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? Who am I? What's wrong with me? Whatever the thought was. How am I going to pay my bills? I was just like, because the thought would settle. And suddenly in the present moment, like all the teachings say, you feel the most delicious okayness. Everything's just okay, you're okay, I'm okay, life is okay. It's not, and it's not. It's just, and it's just deep relief. And that's when I started to know my wholeness. Oh, I used to think my wholeness was this amazing, inspired, excited, like, wow, that's part of me. You know, sure, we have all these expressions, you know, but really it's just presence. It's just,
yeah.
That's the first thing I discovered, relief in my wholeness, and that just neutral okayness. It almost has a nothingness quality to it.
It's amazing how when we shift from the headiness, which we, especially in the Western world, are so conditioned immediately to go into our thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Analytical and linear. And when we move into that felt sense of presence, and we were talking about this another time, you know, that it brings us into, it really brings us into a deeper sense of connection.
Yes.
With ourselves, with life, with what's alive inside of us, even when it doesn't feel good, even if you're having these thoughts and it's evoking these emotions, and you can just kind of be with it. If it's sadness, if it's some kind of grief, if it's whatever it is that's there, that just by bringing it into a felt sense, that we can allow ourselves to feel that without it becoming us, without it controlling us, without it controlling a story, creating a story, but just to so deeply be rooted into the experience of it all. And like you're saying, to know that it's okay. Everything's okay. Every emotion is okay. Every experience is okay. Every thought that flows in and out is okay. And what within all of that is really real for me. You know, who am I beyond all of that? What does that feel like? So being present, and I keep doing this because I feel like it's a bodily experience. You know, when we get out of the head again and into our body, we become embodied, right, in our wholeness. And we can accept everything about ourselves, as you're so beautifully, you know, describing in your own experience of your life.
Yeah.
Accept everything, because it's all okay.
It's all okay. And you said it perfectly, because that's been my experience. You know, when I drop out of my head and use the word feel, we feel who we truly are. We don't understand who we are. I feel it's going to be beyond our understanding. And in fact, when we get up in our head, we get out of the present moment and we get further out of it. Even if we're trying to get it, you know, we get further away. And so, yeah, I love that you said, when I fall back into the moment. And that's exactly been my experience. And my mind just goes a little more quiet and just more settled, and I'm really present. I feel not only who I am, I love how you said that, I really feel that okayness, that eternal okayness. It really reminds me of the eternal nature, because it feels like an unshakable okayness, you know? But I also feel not only my connection to my true self, let me put it this way, I feel connected to you. And I feel connected to this whole that some part of me knows I'm part of. The greater, the life, whatever word you want to put, universal wisdom, intelligence, every tradition speaks to this greater aspect of us in different terms. Some call it the cosmos, some call it the universe, some call it spirit. You know, some call it the wind, right? Some call it God, some call it higher self. But what I discovered was when I'm just really in the present moment out of my feeling, there is the word connection becomes almost irrelevant. There is no, because you can't disconnect.
Right.
There's only the temporal illusion of disconnection that happens when I get all up in my head. So presence is the way.
It's like rather than it's feeling, a new sense of connection, it's a recognition of what's always there.
Exactly.
Recognition was always been there.
Always there.
How we like are even on the deeper molecular level, the atomic level, beyond our skin. You know, it seems like there's like this boundary between us. And on one level there is. On another level, everything is just flowing, right? This energy just flowing.
Yeah.
We just awaken to what is always here. And that's part of accepting all the parts of ourselves. And just like how delicious that is.
Totally. And it's fundamental because, you know, this practice of presence, it's really the solution, not only to like ending the feeling of our doubt, insecurity, self-help. It's the solution to harmonious relationships, but it's also the solution to the planetary dilemma. And I want to speak to it from this place. Let me give this a funny example because I really want to give a flavor for this, not just keep it in concept. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you're in flow, right? And both of you are just connected, right? And you're just back and forth, connected. And you're talking and they're talking and it feels good and alive. And there's just this quality, this energetic, it's a quality of presence, right? And then suddenly, you know, you're on one of your times where you're talking and suddenly you can't help but feel like the person wants somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're still looking at you in the eye, right? But you can't help but feel like they went somewhere. And suddenly that feeling of deep presence and connection seems to kind of like go away. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to use this as an example because I want to give everyone a real felt experience of what we're talking about. All that happened in that moment was one or both people did exactly what we're talking about. They got in their head. They got in their thinking. They stopped being present.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting quality to thinking. When we get up in our heads in thinking, it almost creates like a veil over the connection that is already there. The connection to our wholeness, the connection to each other, the connection to wisdom. And when I say wisdom, I'm talking about that big thing, right? And you can instantly feel it. And so when we are caught up in our own heads with ourselves, we block our connection from our wholeness. And the moment we just catch ourselves, that's why I like to wake people up to thinking, because it's a very direct route. If people don't wake up to the fact that they get caught up in their thinking, the practice of presence becomes very elusive. Because then you only do it when you're consciously practicing presence. But then as soon as you get caught up in your thinking, right? So I really like to point out this very obvious quality to human function, which is getting caught up in our thinking, right? And so what happens, back to the example, you suddenly turn back to your friend and you're like, or your husband, hey, where'd you go? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Right? And, you know, it could be something very innocent. And then suddenly, oh, yeah, sorry, I got caught up in my head. And then suddenly, oh, no problem. And you go out and suddenly the flow feels again. And that's really what happens in relationships when discord happens and you suddenly feel disconnected from your husband or your friend. All that's happening is either one of you or both of you are up in your head thinking that usually might be like they're doing something wrong or I'm doing something wrong. And it's all a bunch of story. Maybe we're none of us doing something wrong. Like, why don't we come back into presence? feel our connection first. Because when people come into dialogue with each other from their heads, they don't feel that sense of connection. And that instantly triggers ego, defense, and they're going to come from that place. But imagine all leaders and all husbands and wives just drop in with themselves first. Okay, let me get all of my righteous thinking out of the way, like that he did this to me, or that they, or he's wrong this way, or I'm right this way, or fall into presence for a second. Allow for that feeling of connection that always exists to come up again.
And even to do it together. If whether, okay, with ourselves, yes, coming into that space, connecting with a partner, with a friend, with someone else we're relating, also to close and just tune in, close your eyes, tune in, take a breath, breathe the same breath together.
Yes.
When we start from that space, we're dropping into that feeling sense. We're recognizing the love that's always here.
And then the defenses drop. And we come from love, the conversation, rather than defense. We do that with ourselves. And so, but to me, that was the missing piece. And not only did I realize that I could always drop into that space of already existing wholeness and okayness in me, but with that space of already existing connection. Because if I'm not feeling connected to another, either I'm in my head, they're in their head, or both. Like, let's drop, find that feeling of already existing connection, move from there. But also back to that third piece. The more I let go of my personal thinking, not only do I stop the self-created suffering, right? If I'm worrying about how is my next launch going to go, oh my God, gotta get it, and I'm striving. It looks like I'm hustling and being the one in charge, but it's actually counterproductive, what I discovered. Because when I'm all efforting and coming from a place of worry and thinking, oh my God, this is coming out, because of now, what's going to happen? I'm not trusting that I'm connected to the wisdom that is running the universe, that turns the stars and planets, right? Like, and what I discovered is when I started to not take my thinking so seriously and fall into this deep space, this more quiet curiosity, right? Well, we all have this function. That connection to wisdom can seep back in. I feel like wisdom is always here, waiting patiently for us to free up our consciousness from all the endless thinking, so we come in with a new, fresh thought that guides us powerfully to create innovation, solutions, ideas, whether for our personal life or the world.
Yeah, I love how you're saying that. And, it's making me think about how fast we all move. Like we have to get it all done. We have to do everything. We have to accomplish this because we want to feel a sense of self-worth. And there's so much inside of that we move 1,000,000 miles an hour and we're always doing. We live in a society that tells us that you have to accomplish this by this age and get married by this age and have this kind of degree, or, there's so many pressures on us that we are workaholics. There's so much here. And I think about the relationship between doing and being. And we just had this beautiful, delicious conversation about being present and sinking into presence and being in this space of being.
Yeah.
And what that does to tune us in to accepting the fullness of who we are, of moving past whatever fears and thoughts and stories and limiting beliefs that we have. And some of them demand a little bit more attention, maybe core traumas from our childhood, things that are really big, that have been habitual for us throughout our lives. So there's some work there. But the fast-paced movement becomes a sort of escapism that is just constantly pulling us away from ourselves, from each other, from deepening into this radical self-acceptance, from really touching into the confidence that's always here within us. Because look, we know this. We come from 13.7 billion years of life learning. That deep wisdom has been cultivated and exploring and experimenting and arriving in us in this moment and continuing to unfold. We have the confidence of billions of years inside of us, the wisdom that is beyond our 100-year lifespan, beyond our individual bodies, beyond our stories. We have so much here, right here within us. And the going, doing, moving, getting so caught up in the collective story of the society and consumerism and all the stuff that's here is the opposite of where we want to be. And that doesn't mean not doing things, but we can always be in action in deep presence as well. We can always be moving through this space, having cultivated a deeper sense of self through allowing ourselves to have this time to be present to what's here.
I love that you just said that doesn't mean we don't go into action. Because a lot of people might think that this conversation is inviting us to just feel so deeply in the moment, like drop all those stories and all those shoulds and all those goals so much and fall so deeply into the present moment that we're like, well, I'm complete. I don't have to do anything. But I actually found that's not what happens. We actually finally start living when we drop all those stories.
Yeah.
Because when I finally just relax, nothing I have to do, nothing I have to fix, nor to run, that's when true inspiration comes in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The long walks. It's not the efforting over 10 books.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's pure inspiration. And it's not clogged up by insecure thinking or personal motives. It's pure inspiration.
Beautiful.
And that's when someone says, I'm going to do this Awaken to Wholeness Summit, and I'm so excited about it. Let's go. Right? Yeah. And that's when someone just says, I'm going to create this nonprofit, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to finally go after that. That's when finally, or it might be something more mundane too, because I don't want to give the idea that wisdom comes in with just like, whoa, right? These like ideas. Sometimes it just says, go to the grocery store. Suddenly you just get this idea, go to the grocery store. And you think it's about food. You just got this hunch suddenly in your quiet space, go to the grocery store. You think that hunch is about food, and suddenly you bump into someone that you know, and you get into this powerful conversation that leads into this powerful collaboration. But if you're in the rush, that wisdom that wants to tell you, go to the grocery store, gets pushed to the back. And you don't hear it. And you continue to kind of like hit walls, trip up. So I feel life becomes a lot more synchronistic and powerful,
Yeah.
On what we contribute. And it also feels better in our own personal level too, because we're not so self-centered anymore. Oh, why do I feel this way? How can I fix it? Just a thought there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel the inspiration really begins. I feel living really begins. I feel connection and real relationship really begin. I feel contribution and impact can really begin. And also even just with your presence, because I'm still human too, right? We still, because thought, when it comes up inside of us, it feels really real, and we're here to feel all of it. So I embrace it, but now I just don't get scared by it, right? And so sometimes I just have grief moving through me, or fear, and I do have my moments. I bounce back from it that much more quickly because I don't get all caught up in it. And then I can fall back into this presence that we're giving a flavor for through this conversation. And then when I go to the grocery store, I really believe, this is my experience, right? This is my story, that just residing in this presence on the line in the grocery store has an impact. Because I'm so open. I feel so much compassion from everyone in my presence. I feel so connected. And then I look into the eyes of the cash register person and I smile. And then I give them a moment of presence, which gets them in heart, in presence. And when they're in presence, they feel love. Because we are love. We just gets clouded by thinking. And when I help someone drop into, even just for a moment, I remind them who they are. Love, peace, curiosity, creativity.
Beautiful. That's so beautifully said, Shirley. And it's I knowing what we were going to talk about today, I actually brought a poem. I wasn't sure if it would be, we wanted to read it, but I actually feel like I want to share it because it's what we're talking about. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's from Dana Folds. It's called Go In and In. Go in and in. Be the space between the cells, the vast resounding silence in which spirit dwells. Be sugar dissolving on the tongue of life. Dive in and in, as deep as you can dive. Be infinite, ecstatic truth. Be love, conceived and born in union. Be exactly what you seek. The beloved, singing yes, tasting yes, embracing yes until there is only essence, the all of everything expressing through you, as you. Go in, and turn away from nothing you find. This invitation into deep presence, into radically accepting everything that we are, and allowing that to give us a deeper sense of everything that is beyond our own bodies. When we talk about wholeness, we can never just talk about our own sense of wholeness within us, because everything is always interconnected. And we awaken to that understanding, then the in and in, as deep as you can go, brings us deeper into the ecstasy of everything that is. So that wholeness becomes all of ours. It belongs to all of us. Like it's just this incredible, huge experience that's beyond any words. It's just feeling into that and letting that inform our lives and inform our choices and our movements and our actions. And I was thinking before when we were talking about, it doesn't mean not acting or taking action. And I kept having this image of a walking meditation, where it's like walking meditation. You're not in stillness. Your body is moving, right? And you're aware of your foot touching the ground and the way that the air feels as it glides across your skin. And you're aware of these things. So even as we're moving through our day, as a teacher, as a garbage man, as an astronaut, as whatever we are, whatever we do, as a mother, as whatever it is, that we can even move quickly, like super speedy, go, get it all done. Even that can be a movement of meditation. A deeper sense of connected to our wholeness, so that when we have those moments, those all too human moments, because we're absolutely full of it, right? When we have those moments and we get caught in our stories, we can go, whoo, there I am again.
Yes.
You see what I just did? I just got caught in that crazy story and I acted out from that place. And now I get to come back into my deeper sense of who I am and what we are and what this is and the deeper meaning of everything. And move now from this space again. Oh, sorry, I was in my head. Here, let's get back to that incredible conversation.
I mean, isn't it delicious that as soon as we do, as soon as we get, we come back from all those stories that seem so personal, important and pertinent, and just how instantly connected and moved and important, but also not important we feel. It's like this beautiful compassion and just deep togetherness, that we instantly feel. All that personal stuff can just fall away. And it's just also I'm feeling just deep compassion for all of us, how we do get caught up in the stories. And that's what creates pain in life. Not our partners, not the bad job, the wrong job, right? It's my thinking about the wrong job. It's my thinking about my husband, right? As soon as I fall back, but I'm feeling just deep, deep compassion for all of us, because we just get so easily caught up and it creates so much pain. But as soon as we fall back, we're only one thought away from just deep.
Honey, and it brings us back to that okayness.
Yeah.
So yes, everyone who's tuning in right now, when you have that moment, we all have that moment. Every one of us, no matter how put together you think we look, forget it. We all have that moment, right? So when you have that moment, it really is about taking a breath into it and saying, it's okay. I'm okay. That action could have been done a little differently, and now I'm aware of that. It's okay. Everything's okay. I get to stay in this embrace, this self-embrace that I'm like widening my arms to hug the world right now, this larger embrace of life, and keep coming back to that place of everything really is okay, no matter what it is. Yeah.
It's so good. I had this moment the other day, with my boyfriend, and I got in my head and I got insecure about our relationship. And I got really in a spin about it. And I was also, and I was just basically, I was tired. I was really, really, really tired. And I was in the middle of a move. I was moving cities. And, my business plans for 2017, I had gotten the guidance to drop them. And I've so learned to trust that inner voice because it's only guided me so miraculously, magically, whatever word you want to put it, but perfectly, that when I get a guidance, even if it feels really scary to my inner child and my ego, I learned to guidance. So technically for 2017, it's still coming together. So there was that little edge of nothing, everything is new now, right? New city, new work path, new relationship, everything is like, and I was really tired. And so I went to the side of the edge of fear and worry. And I got really emotional and sensitive. And my sister came over and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I just started to like bawl. I just started to cry. I was having this very human moment. And she was like, "Holy." And then I'm like, "Don't worry. I know it's totally temporary." And this is the key I want to bring across. And I was in it. I was literally like bawling. But that's what's really cool when you wake up to these truths that we're talking about, that we are eternally okay. And this is what we all have in common. This is not what's wrong with me individually. This is how the human functions. We have these temporary fleeting thoughts and experiences, and they pass, and we come back to our true self. But if I identify with that temporary fleeting moment,
Yes.
I prevent myself from coming back to who I really am, this wholeness, right?
And even more, Shirley, when we identify with that fleeting moment too much, we start to create that personality and the actions and the thoughts and the stories that go along with that identity. And then we get sort of locked in this loop.
That's it.
Right, of not living in our wholeness, not living in our fullness, but identifying ourselves too small.
That's it. And it feels so familiar because it becomes such a perpetual habit of thinking and being and acting that we think that's who we are. And then we affirm that personality even more when it just was rooted in some temporary, perfectly human thinking. And so I was in my and I really fundamentally knew I was going to be totally fine, because I knew tomorrow I was going to be well rested, and tomorrow I'm going to have a new thought. I don't know what that thought. I'm not even going to predict the future. I'm not even going to say it's going to be a positive thought. I'm not trying to, this is not about positive thinking. This is just about waking up to that, our moment-to-moment experience, this moment-to-moment. It's temporary. It's created by thought. And I do have the free will of what thought I cling on to and identify to or not. I can also just be compassionate with myself when I'm in it and know it'll pass.
Absolutely.
And sure enough, the next day I was well rested, and I saw the thought want to come up again, but this time I wasn't as spiritually lazy as I'd like to say, because I was rested and I was clear, and I'm like, I didn't pay attention to that. I thought, you're just a thought, about my boyfriend and the move and what's next. And I just came back to the present moment. And I know in the present moment, especially if I'm most relaxed, I'm going to get another idea. Whether the idea is write an email or call Valerie, and that's what I know. And that's why neuroscientists, when they study human habits, they actually discovered that there's 3 places where we get our best ideas. And I think this study, it's a scientific study, speaks exactly to what we're talking about. They discovered that the places where humans get the greatest ideas, be they CEOs, and they actually studied a lot of CEOs and moguls that have to make a lot of minute-to-minute decisions, and that can really break or make billion-dollar industry. they discovered they come in 3 places, not in the boardroom, not hashing away at writing or in the computer. They come when we're in the shower, on vacation, to and from, driving to and from work. Why? Because we're not all caught up and we're relaxed. And in that relaxed state, that wisdom can guide me again. It gives me a hunch. Oh, this is your next program. I actually got that. I got my next program this morning in the toilet.
Like Dr. Emmett Brown and the flex capacitor.
And I wasn't even thinking about it. And it's actually just like an arrested daze.
I had some great ideas there too, Cheryl. Yes, to everything you're sharing. You know, and that is such a key point too, is it really does come back to like, how do we connect with our own creativity? You know, that is always available to us, you know, this deep well of the things that we know and the things that we don't know we know, because everything we've ever done in our lives is in here. Every conversation, every article we've read, every experience, everything has left an imprint in our I'm going to say in our whole body, right? Not just in our minds, in our whole body. And so when we allow ourselves to trust that, that's really where that intuition comes from that you're talking about. To relax, to go for that drive, to go for that walk, to something is saying right now, I need to go to the grocery store. I don't know what that is, but there's something that I'm not even aware of that's guiding me to do something in this moment. And maybe you even saw someone post something on Facebook that said that this, and then they were going to the grocery store and you don't remember that, but that's somewhere filed away. And then you go there and that person's there and you really wanted to connect with them. And all that happened underneath the surface. And you got it as a hit of go to the grocery store or you know, pick up this book right now. Or so it's really coming down to trusting ourselves so deeply, right? Being in that space of trusting ourselves so deeply that we allow every creative impulse that we have to emerge and to flow with it and to explore it and try it out. You know, I have this feeling to do this. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what that was. Let me try that. You know, oh, wow, you know, something amazing came from that. Or I'm not sure if I'm feeling this. What does it feel like in my body? Well, let me just try it. No, that wasn't it. Okay, great. There's great information in that too. So life becomes this experiment. You know, we just keep experimenting. It's experimental threshold crossings. And every time we do, we're like, well, oh, I get it a little bit deeper. I get it a little more clear about how to trust those instinctual hits that come through and the deep well of wisdom that's within me that I'm not even totally aware of.
Exactly. And this is pivotal now more than ever. And not just for our personal lives, right? Because we've been kind of talking about how it guides us in our personal lives, but it's pivotal for the planet. Because that well, that infinite well of wisdom where these ideas come from are also going to inform us in how to move next for the planet.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is a really crucial conversation, you know, so when we're talking about living from wholeness, when we're talking about waking up to the stories that they're not real so that we can drop back in and experience our wholeness and then tap into, because that's the second piece that happens. Remember in the beginning, I said 2 things happen when you tap into, when you let go of thinking. When you wake up to think, oh, and that you don't have to believe it and take it seriously, positive or negative, it's just thinking. 2 things happen, right? You drop into the present moment, you feel relief, right? That's the first thing, you feel your wholeness. But the second thing is that you become an open vessel for that wisdom, that intuition, that nudging. And now more than ever, that's important for us personally, but also collectively, because we are all, and this also brings back the conversation to how we began. This is again looking at to what we all have in common. We are all made of the same stuff. We all have this exact same function. Einstein, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, not different than you and me, the people really making an impact. They just learned how to get out of their own way to allow for that beyond the known knowing to come in, right? The Richard Branson story reminds me of this, but Einstein spoke to this all the time. He said imagination is more important than knowledge. He was constantly nudging us to tap into this wisdom that is beyond what we know. And how do we make space for it? You know, Richard Branson, I don't know his exact story, you know, the owner of British Airways.
Yes.
He was sitting at an airport, like some young guy that didn't know anything about airplanes or airlines, like just some kid, young guy, and in the midst of like storm chaos where everything was canceled. I don't remember the exact story. I heard it a long time ago. And it was chaos in the airport, and the airlines were freaking out, and the people are freaking out, and everyone's freaking out. And he was just kind of sitting back, relaxed, observing the chaos. And in that moment of pure just awareness, he just like, this is ridiculous. There has to be a better way. And he decided to move on that ridiculous idea. I'm going to create a better way. He didn't allow story of, who am I to? I have nothing to do with the airline industry too. Or that's impossible. How am I going to recreate this chaos? It's just is. No, he didn't allow any story of impossibility to get in his way. And this is like the huge implications of what we're talking about, you know, not just to revolutionize our personal life and not get stuck in own personal insecurities of, I can't go on stage or I can't talk to my husband about this, but implications on a planetary level. He didn't allow that. And he just moved forward one step at a time in that experiment. We probably, whether he was conscious or not, relaxed enough so he would just get the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. And he revolutionized air travel and created this airline that is known for its like amazingness, right? But the same thing, that is how Einstein said he created the theory of relativity, you know, that revolutionized everything.
Yeah.
And I actually, you know, I don't come from that coaching world, like go out and do it and come on and you can do it, because that there's an actual energy to that of becoming. And it's part of that I'll be happy when. Fixing, getting, that we actually talked about in the beginning, that actually keeps us from knowing how beautiful and perfect and whole we are and get us in a race. And so I don't come from that place because we're whole and perfect already. We actually don't have to do anything to prove ourselves, no validation. We are whole and perfect already. It's only my thinking that I'm not that makes me feel otherwise, right? But I am from the place of, when I'm inspired about possibility, I'm going to go for it. Not to, but because I feel this is also the opportunity we have in life to create from that space of the unknown, to discover how. Because if we only move forward on the projects and ideas that we know how, there would be no evolution. You know, and life wants us to evolve. Life is always inviting us to be part of the evolution. And the way that we conscious beings are part of that evolution is by staying present, staying curious to how that evolution wants to move me. And it moves me in the moment to moment. And I'm not going to see the whole staircase. I just have to say yes.
Yes, yes.
Curious how.
I love it.
How.
And this is what we were diving into this before, which is this, how do we ultimately embrace the confidence within us? And it really is about welcoming the unknown.
Yes.
Because as soon as we have it all figured out, what's the point of anything? It's about living in the mystery, living in the unknown, and trusting every step held, right? And just embracing what we don't know, because then we can only approach life with curiosity. Yeah. Well, what's going to happen next?
Yes.
It never feels like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? It feels like, what's going to happen?
Yes.
This excitement, right? This curiosity for the unknown, and how is my life going to unfold, and what is possible? Yeah. Can I create an airline?
Exactly.
Let me try it. If not, okay, I'll try something else. But I'm feeling called to do this. There's no failure. There's no thing, right? Embrace the unknown, embrace the curiosity, embrace the mystery of it all. You know, and this is how we live from wholeness.
That's it. That's it.
Just dive in, fully walk in mystery.
Yeah, see, that's what true confidence is. True confidence isn't this like Hollywood version of I am great, right?
I
And so
know.
we think that confidence is some feeling inside of me where I just finally feel I've arrived. I don't know, right?
Right.
And that's
Almost
why
like
always,
arrogance or machismo or something like no.
totally. And that's why when we don't realize that that's what we're going for, it always eludes us. Confidence is actually not a feeling. To me, confidence is exactly what you're talking about. It's just willingness. It's just go in. It's just jump inness. It's just curiosity. And so, and the only way to live that curiously and that, jump in, you know, um, ability is, like you said, trust in the unknown. Know you're connected. You're going to be guided moment to moment to moment to moment.
You know far more than you think you do.
You are.
You have so much more wisdom in you than you are even aware of. Trust.
Yeah, and we are part of this field that science has now tapping into, and there's wisdom in this field. The answers are there to be had, and that's why they're showing. They don't understand how a scientist in Japan comes up with the same solution to a problem the same moment that a scientist in the States, and they're not connected at all, come up to. I feel that there's all the information already exists,
Yes.
and when we're calm, it comes through. And if sometimes it feels very ordinary. Right?
Yeah. Simple and subtle. Honey, this has been such an incredible conversation. And I feel like on that note, it's a really wonderful place for us to close and just hold on to that, the trust, the deepening into presence, the radical self-acceptance, the deep sense of competence and creativity and wisdom, even beyond what we're aware of, all of it that's here and present and whole and perfect within us. Deepening our recognition and awareness of our interconnection with life and just living from that space. Powerful and so, so beautiful. And Shirley, you really embody this in your life and in your work and in our world. And you're just such an important part of my life on a personal level. I love you so deeply. And, we connect because of all of this, because of the depths of who we are and our presence. And it's such a welcoming relationship and a welcoming sisterhood. And I want that for everyone, to experience that deeply in life and to feel that with themselves and each other. And that's what we're awakening into. And I also know that you have some incredible gifts for us. We're so, so blessed. So first of all, everybody can download the being the heart of the storm, everyday light worker principles to being calm, centered, creative, and courageous during chaotic times. So that's one beautiful free offering for everyone. And then for anybody who decides to go ahead and upgrade to our full package, which includes all the audios and videos and incredible master classes and bonuses and so much goodness, you're doing one of the master classes for us, Shirley, and I'm very excited about it. It's Courage to be Great. Courage to be great. And I know you guys want to dive in more with Shirley, so that's going to be offered if you decide you want to upgrade. And again, 50% of all of our proceeds are going to the Children in Nature Network. So it's amazing. It'll support you. It'll support our world. And we're in this together. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And thank you, darling, because your way of being in the world as well has helped me also step more fully into this, because you do have just that get up and go and create, and you have an idea and you just go and look at this magnificent, important conversation you've created with so many for us. So thank you for the way you show up. And you and me are not special. We're not special. Everyone listening to this, that's what I really want you to get. We're all made of the same stuff. We all get caught up in the same way, and we're all just learning to not get caught up. So we can live from our greatness, from our wholeness. That is not our personal greatness. It's the collective greatness just coming through us. So it doesn't even make me special. And we all have this available to us.
Absolutely. Amen, sister.
So fun.
Thank you so much, honey. I love you.
I love you, honey.
Much more to come.